Likely deal would give Trump fraction of desired wall money. The Sacramento Bee. February 8, 2019, 0:55 p.m. Congressional bargainers worked toward a border security deal Friday amid indications that the White House was preparing to accept a bipartisan agreement that would give President Donald Trump a fraction of the money he's demanded for his proposed southern border wall. Participants said they expect money for physical barriers to end up well below the $5.7 billion that Trump has sought to begin construction of the wall, which has attained iconic significance for him and his conservative supporters. Underscoring that's an agreement would also avert a new partial federal shutdown next weekend. Trump has warned, get 6 months of free digital access to the Sacramento Bee. One White House aide said Trump was expected to back whatever compromise emerges and acknowledged there is no will among congressional Republicans for another shutdown. The aide spoke on, coupled with a widespread expectation that the agreement would not use the term wall, the pact would represent a significant retreat for Trump, for whom build. Democrats seemed to draw a firm line on spending throughout. In another signal that Trump was reluctantly preparing to give ground, the White House has been considering accepting the deal but also using executive action to secure additional barrier funding without lawmakers' approval. That plan was Trump supporters have said there are other executive powers Trump could use to divert money from the budget to wall construction, though it was unclear if they would face challenges in Congress or the courts. One provision of the besides the dollar figure, talks were focusing on the type and location of barriers, participants said. Also in play, money for high-tech surveillance equipment and more personnel was also expected to be included. No one ruled out last-minute problems, especially with Trump's penchant for head-snapping turnabouts. But the momentum was Republic. Mark Meadows, IM. A conservative House GOP aide said Freedom Caucus members wanted at least $2 billion for barriers and no restrictions on new construction, land acquisition, or new types of barriers that could be built. The aide also said the agreement need not contain the term wall, a word that Trump has lately alternated between embracing and abandoning. The aide spoke on, if there is a bipartisan deal, there would likely be enough votes to pass it without the most conservative Republicans or the most liberal Democrats. Meadows' assessment of Trump's view clashed with one expressed Thursday by Sr. Richard Shelby he described the emerging deal to Trump in the Oval Office and told reporters the session was the Besides a shutdown, Trump has threatened to bypass Congress and divert taxpayer money to wall construction by declaring a national emergency at the border. Lawmakers of both parties oppose that move. It would be certain to February 8, 2019, 04:30 p.m. Computer models are showing a growing likelihood of an atmospheric river storm hitting California late next week, raising concerns that if a warm Pineapple Express barrels in with enough force, it could melt parts of the state's Big Sierra Nevada snowpack and increase flood risk. Atmospheric scientists and meteorologists say more will be known in a few days. The storm could get 6 months of free digital access to the Sacramento Bee. Real-time updates and all local stories you want right in the palm of your hand.
Raindrops, drop top, top smoking, no cooking, the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.